This video will demonstrate the use of the Find window and the database objects contained in the Find window. The Find window is one of the more important windows in the tool. You must pay attention to this window at all times. If things don't seem to be going the way you expected them to, it could be because there's a setting in the Find window not set the right way. The Find window is located on the right-hand side. By default, it will be tabbed with the options within the visibility window. The middle one is Find. Find window is also sometimes referred to as the Find filter. The Find window is basically used to filter out objects when you're moving your mouse into a certain area. The Find window has two main sections. The top section is the Design Object Find filter. This is used when you are using the left mouse button to select items in the design window. There also is a Find by Name section that can be used. So if you want to say go find the net GND rather than point to a pin or a piece of etch on the GND, you can type in a name. So let's look at this top section here. These are all the different objects, database objects that we can filter around. If we start from the top left and work our way down, the first top left item is called groups. Groups are manually created. You can create as many groups as you want, and it can have whatever objects in there. A group could have 3 components, some routing, vias, shapes, whatever. But groups are created manually. Next is comps, or short for components. Components are typically the electrical side of the part in your net list. So for instance, U15 might be a 74F00. So it's the electrical side. Symbols is the physical side of the part. So U15, that's still part of the symbol, but it could be like a DIP 14 type part. Functions are the gates that are part of the electrical part. Nets are actually the nets as different from the net list or the schematic that came in. Pins are the individual pins or pads of the component or footprint. Vias are routing vias. C-lines or clines stand for connect lines. They are the routing in your design. So it's the actual etch that you're routing with. Connect lines are only on a single layer, and it goes from a pin to a pin, or a pin to a via, or via to a via, or a pin to a T, and so on. So they are more than one piece of etch, but they are broken up by those different database elements. Lines are similar to C-lines, except for they are non-routing things. So things like our silk screens and assemblies are lines. They are multiple line segments. Moving to the top right-hand side, shapes. Those are our poured copper areas. You can pour copper on any layer, but also shapes will be your embedded planes. Voids and cavities, those are openings in our shape. C-line segs or Klein segs, that's the individual pieces of the connection, the routing. So this one vertical segment, that's one C-line segment. This diagonal is one C-line segment. This horizontal is one C-line segment. So it's individual C-lines segments. Other segments, again, are the breakdowns of the lines. So you draw an assembly outline. Each segment is a other segment. Figures are used to represent things like drill drawings and fab drawings, stuff like that. Your drill chart has figures in it. DRC errors are the little bow ties that you see when there is a design rule violation or a design rule check. Text is, as much as it sounds like, pieces of text on your design. Rat's nests are the point-to-point connections for nets that do not have routing all the way done. When a connection is not made, you will see a rat's nest. And rat's T's are T-points that can be inserted into a routing order. So how does this work? So when you select on put your mouse over something or select on something, like over text U15, notice that it says, oh, I'm going to operate on the component instance U15. So even though I have my mouse over the text, it picked the component instance. And why is this? Over in the Find window, when you have your mouse there, it's going to start at the top left-hand checkbox, work its way down to the bottom, go back to the next section and work its way down. Try to find something that's checked that can be associated with this object that your mouse was over. Well, since that text, U15, is part of that component, it is going to pick up that component rather than the text. If all I wanted to operate on was the text, what I need to do is come to my Find window, select the All Off button, turn on Only Text, and then move my mouse over that. Now it can only operate on just the text itself. It should be noted that there's a little bit difference between whether you're doing a single select in here or doing a window select. The single select works in the hierarchy of top left to bottom right. If you select with a window drag, it will try to pick up everything that it can find inside that window. And there is the show elements. Now if you notice down here, I'm in the show element command. So it picked everything up. There's nets there because I have nets turned on. Let's see what else we can find. There's a component instance because we picked up U15. So what you do is I'm going to drag my window here. I'm going to do a little portion. As long as some part of that element is inside that window, it will be selected. Now I mentioned that there's two sections, the Design Object Find Filter section and the Find by Name section. If I wanted to run a command or find a database object and type in a name, I use the Find by Name section. For example, if I run the Display Highlight command, and I said, I want to highlight all of my ground nets. I will pull down under here and I can pick up nets or symbols or functions or any of these different items and then just type in a name, GND, and as soon as I hit the Tab key or the Enter key, it will highlight all of the ground net items. So you can notice basically right now it highlighted all the pins, the routing, the vias, and so on. So I used it by name rather than by clicking with my left mouse button. This concludes the video that demonstrated the use of the Find window and the database objects contained in the Find window.